2 minutes to live, 2 minutes. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening and welcome to this special meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Kincardine at 5 o'clock on April 24th, 2023. Roll call this evening, Deputy Mayor Clark.
Present.
Councillor Blackwell.
Present.
Councillor Kavanaugh.
Present.
Councillor Hinchberger.
Present.
Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Prenger.
Present.
Councillor Steinoff Gray.
Present.
Councillor Stewart. Also like to acknowledge our staff that's present. There's no one here electronically this evening, I believe. Okay. Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Thank you, Mayor. We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which includes the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation and the Chippewas of Saugeen First Nation, whose ancestors were the first to inhabit, care for, and live on this land. We recognize and deeply appreciate the contributions that Indigenous peoples have made, both in caring for this land and shaping and strengthening this community, our province, and our country. As a public service organization, we are dedicated to learning and acknowledging Indigenous history and culture and committed to actions that move us towards a journey of truth, healing, and reconciliation with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the Métis Nation of Ontario, and the historic Saugeen Métis.
Thank you. I would ask regarding pecuniary interest, if there's any declaration to acknowledge it either now or as that arises during the meeting. Business for which the special meeting is called. So you'll notice on the agenda tonight that there is no additions, deletions to or from the agenda. And this is a special meeting. It was called to discuss priority setting, particularly our integrated strategy 2.0 for our procedural bylaws section, which says at special meetings of council, it shall not be competent to consider or decide upon any matters unless such matters have been listed in the notice calling the meeting. Also in procedure bylaw A 8.4 does allow for special meetings to be held without notice in the event of a bona fide emergency. And in the bylaw, an emergency is defined as it is in the Emergency Management and Civic Protection Act, which is a situation, an impending situation that constitutes a danger of major proportions that could result in serious harm to person or substantial damage to property. And this is caused by the forces of nature, diseases, or other health risk. This motion does not fall under this category. In order to add a topic to this evening's meeting and the subsequent closed meeting that's being requested, council will need to follow section A 25, which is the suspension and amendment of our procedural bylaws and rules. And it states, any standing rule, order of council, or provision of this bylaw other than a quorum requirement, so you have to have enough people. Any order of council may be suspended or amended at or for a particular meeting by resolution of the council adopted with the unanimous less one consent. So if we pass this resolution, it is unanimous less one consent of all the members present and voting, provided that the suspension of rule does not result in a contravention of the municipal act. So what we are in effect doing is suspending section A8 of the procedure bylaw for tonight's meeting, just for that one section of the meeting, I expect. So we need a mover and seconder that we suspend section A8 of the procedure bylaw for the special meeting of April 24, 2023, and that's for the purpose of discussing something that is not previously listed on the agenda or subject to public notice. Moved by Councillor Stewart, second by Deputy Mayor Clark. Discussion? Any discussion? So I'd like to draw to your attention just before we start that in the event that this happens and there is someone who would like to draw this resolution to a higher authority's attention, we have no defense for what we're doing. No defense. And what we're doing, I got an email today that talked about the need for transparency in our council, and there's, we're just be fully aware that we're contravening a lot of what we stand for here. So if you choose to support it, that's okay. But it is a challenge to the procedure. So the council approved the following amendment. Oh, is that includes? So do we, and the amendments come afterwards? Okay. So that moved and seconded duly, the council suspend section A8 to move into a special meeting for tonight. All in favor of that motion? Is there anyone opposed? Did we just defeat it?
I think you had one person, or did you have two?
No, just one person, but it's no. And for what did you say? Yeah.
Oh, this is one you were just talking about, it has to be unanimous, so that's one.
Yes.
I see what you're saying. I'm like, why are you pairing this? I don't know.
The motion is defeated. All right. So we are not in closed session. Our senior staff will remain. We will continue with the agenda as presented. Okay. We're moving into the next page. All right, matters, priority setting, integrated strategy 2.0. All right, so we have this evening our manager of strategic initiatives, Lori Fiozzi, here, and she is going to run through the slide deck that reminds us of the strategic priorities that council had established earlier on. And we will get that background, and then council will be asked to provide any comments or questions regarding the path forward with our strategic initiatives. So thank you, Lori, for being here this evening. Go ahead. Oh, and our CAO,
Yeah.
Jillian Bell-Chamber Glazier.
Well, I do want to
I do want to thank our manager of strategic initiatives. Lori has done a tremendous amount of work in helping to pull together this report so council can review and determine whether or not this hits the highlights and the right notes for you for at least the next year in order to move forward and establish what is your vision, your mission, your values, outlining what the key priorities are for the next year. And we've also included some of the actions that we think tie to what we've heard from you in both those workshops and through council discussions and in budget process as well. So council has heard a lot already about the importance of strategic planning. We'll probably talk about that many more times over your term of council about why it's so important, because we use it as a framework to help make recommendations to you on certain issues, because we can see whether or not it aligns with the priorities that you have established. And it serves as the umbrella and the framework for which we proceed on pretty much everything we do, particularly the things that are discretionary. So it's a really important component of the work that council does, and we appreciate the time and energy and effort that you've already put into it by having 2 workshops on it. We also see that in the future, not too distant future, we would expect that council will spend time through the more deliberate process with public consultation. So when that corporate strategic plan wraps up at the end of 2025, we want you to have something in place to carry you through to for a longer term vision, but also helps to hit the highlights of what would take place over the remainder of the term and perhaps the beginning of the next term. You've also heard and will hear a bit more about the importance of this in terms of even your governance review. So, you know, it'll tie back into official plan reviews, decisions related to other primary plans that get put in front of council. So we are very excited about what we have for you tonight, but we also are saying if there's things you still want to tweak, that's great. We're going to use this. If council approves something or tweaks it tonight, we're going to use it as a basis of a conversation with our staff and communication out to the public so that we can be clear, this is the direction we're headed, and this is what council is looking for this term. So I might turn it over to Lori to go through the PowerPoint presentation. Thank you.
Let's just put in.
Yes?
Yeah.
Yes, great idea. Certainly, the early on in the presentation is just filling in the background information, and when we get into the actual discussions, opportunity for questions both and.
I guess I need this. Thank you, Mayor Craig and council and my fellow colleagues. So this is our strategic priority setting session number 3. And before we get into where Mayor Craig is going to kind of pause and get you to give input under each of the objectives and actions, just want to take us back a little bit just to kind of give us the context. My philosophy in life is you need to hear things 7 times, 7 different ways in order to kind of really grasp. And I'm not saying that we haven't grasped, but it's just more like getting the sort of the lay of the land from previous, what got us here and why this is so important. And I say it's important. I know that strategic planning is my love. I know it's not everybody's love, but it really is a critical piece for the organization. So I'm doing 2 things here because I can't read that far. So I'm going to use my screen here as well. So just going to give you a bit of background. Then Mayor Craig is going to take us through a bit of a discussion, as I had mentioned, on all the focus areas and the actions. We wanted to talk about the values because the values is a very new component based on this council. This is council's commitments and behaviors that you had talked about in your 2 previous workshops that we want to put forward to you, which we really want to have a discussion around that. And then we want to pose a question to see where you're at with what you'd like to do moving forward. Talk about some next steps and just a bit of closing remarks. So just around the background, I think Jillian set the stage really well around the importance of strategic planning. It really is the common focus. It's sort of like the North Star for the organization and really helps the organization have alignment. It has have alignment around where we're going as council, where we're going as staff, and also for the community to see what we're focusing on. It really should help guide priority setting and decision making. So that way, then we all know where we're going. We all know what we're trying to focus on as an organization. And as you engage in a strategic planning process, it really ensures that our programs, our services, our policies, our processes all meet the needs of the changing community. And so we all know we're changing as we grow. And strategic planning really takes that time for you to step back, look at what's happening in your external context, hear from the community, and figure out where you go next and what the organization should focus on. And we really, why we didn't start from scratch with this process, we had the conversation in our first workshop around having this council have an opportunity to shape some of the current work that's already happening. And I'll explain and I'll show you what I mean by that. So we do have a, I didn't switch the slide on that one, sorry. There we go. So we do have a corporate strategic plan, which is this one. That was developed in 2020, and it goes to 2025. It was approved in 2020. It had multiple opportunities for public engagement. So we had stakeholder interviews with both community partners and staff, public survey, our Kincardine Talks discussion forum. We held community and business workshops. I wasn't here at that time. That was prior to my time, as well as I think Jalene's as well. But there was a lot of work done, and MBD and DB Insights helped create the plan with the organization. And so when I came in, part of my role was to help track progress around the plan. And realize we have so many different, and for now the word is primary plans rather than master plan, from an inclusion point of view of the master slave type of nomenclature we're trying to get rid of. But that's what I mean when I say primary plans. It's all of our master plans that the organization is working on. So looking across the organization, we wanted a way to communicate what we were doing, because it wasn't just what was in this corporate plan, which you'll find under responsive and engaging government. It was about all of our different plans. It was our economic development strategy. It was our wastewater sewer plans. It was any of our primary plans that we were working on. We also talked about forming new plans. And I think, Council, you've already identified one that you want action on around our Parks Master Plan, for example, our Waterfront Master Plan. So those are all plans that are in place. And the integrated strategy was really sort of to bring them all together and show them under one document.
Councillor Kennedy.
Yes, through the chair. So if somebody wanted to bring up to expand on our master parks plan, would now be the time to talk about that? Or you want?
I'm sure that when we get into it, there's categories here, whether it's planning for sustainable future or quality of life, those sorts of things.
At 8.1, I've got them written down. I just want to be sure I'm not missing the boat.
You're not missing the opportunity. No,
Thank you.
There will be plenty of opportunity for those conversations, Councillor.
And so to the integrated strategy, the other point is that it really identified opportunities for collaboration, both with the community, community partners, as well as within the organization. Helps us to get out of our silos within the departments and really bring together the work so we can see what we're working on together. Now,
Councillor Stanoff-Gray.
I just have one quick question, because we talk a lot about our public engagement in our surveys and the different mechanisms we use to reach out to the public. Is there anything we do to make sure that our sample population is representative of our demographics? Just, we can deduce a lot from a survey, but if it's not representative, we might be missing some opportunity there. So I'd just be curious whether or not we take the time to confirm that we are representative in those demographics of our survey samples.
So through you, Mayor, for this particular community engagement for the strategic plan, I don't believe it was a representative sample, if that's what you're looking for, but they did do a lot of input. And I think part of you'll see one of the actions that are coming forward in this plan is an engagement framework that speaks exactly to those times when we need to have a representative sample and all kinds of other methods of engagement, sort of getting the organization under, and knowledgeable around that. So that plan is coming.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Just to give you some background, in the 2020 to 2025, we did And the consultants went out there and we did representation right across the municipality. So we just didn't expect a passive. We went out there and attracted people in the rural areas, farmers and everything else. So the original plan had a good representation, business people, summer people and everything. So we had a huge group that actually came and commented on the plan. So that was done for the original plan. Thank you.
CAO?
I was wondering perhaps, Lori, if you could just comment with your background. You and I have chatted a little bit about making sure that the information and the public feedback inputted into a plan is, as to the point, statistically significant. How would you go about doing that?
So through you, Mayor. So when conducting a statistically reliable survey, you need to make sure the sampling, and it's usually through an outside source that would do this. You would do sampling that really gets at the demographics of your community, and it need to be random. It can't be people volunteering to give input. They would have, when you approach them, they have to volunteer to give the input, but it's not self-selection. So that's a statistically reliable process. And it does cost. It's costly. I think in my past organizations, we've spent anything from 25,000 up to 100,000 on a type of survey that's to that magnitude. Our population's much smaller than the previous organization I worked with. But again, when do you do that? When do you need that? That's part of the engagement framework. You don't need that for every type of thing you're doing, but sometimes like a strat plan, it is helpful to have that. So it's not your usual suspects always coming to give input. You have a really good representation.
Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. So I know that effectively if there is a congruence, it stated that there'd be sort of a refresh until the end of 2024, but a new one for 2025. Is a thought process that you sort of build on what is already there when you say a new plan for the budget?
Do you want to?
Sure. Yeah, my expectation would be if council moves forward generally with what is proposed through this process, which is what the discussion has been, are you satisfied with some tweaking that we can get to something that will take us to a point where 2025 is the start of a new one? It would be budgeted in 2024 for that start of the whole process, which includes community engagement, council workshops, one-on-one interviews so that you are ready to go by the end of 2024 with a new plan. So it's in place for 2025.
And through you, Mayor Craig, and I think that's really up to council and what scope you'd like that plan. It could be a start from fresh. It could be a tweaking. Again, that's part of the environmental assessment at the beginning. And hopefully we'd have some council members who'd be interested in helping us figure out that process on a bit of an ad hoc kind of basis. So it can be like, again, it's really directed by what you want from a strategic planning process. So with a new council, it's really important to have you help us shape the priorities. And so that's part of what we wanted to understand when we had the workshop 1 and workshop 2 was how much congruence was there in the integrated strategy that we had with all of our primary plans, with the corporate plan that was in place to 2025. And if there was congruence, we would refresh the integrated strategy with some of your new priorities that we worked through in the first 2 workshops and keep it till the end of 2024. And if it wasn't, then we were going to plan on coming back with a recommendation around, starting from scratch. But really, our goal was to have the new plan, if there was congruence, as Jillian had mentioned, at the end of 2024, so we would start to align with the 2025 cycle. So really, after today's workshop, we would like to know, based on what your input is around what we've got to date, do you feel these priorities and actions will take us to the end of 2024? Or are you thinking that, another option is to start from scratch and come back with a proposal around a new process? Or do you have amendments? And then that's partly where Mayor Craig is going to take us through each area and see what kind of amendments you might have to some of the things that we're proposing based on council's discussions. So really the intention is, and it's in a 1 sheet. So this is just the short form. This is the plan on a page. We will get to eventually, if you do approve and have amendments to something that looks more like this, like the integrated strategy. But this is the plan on the page, and we just thought it'd be helpful for you to see it all at a glance, because it really does provide that common kind of roadmap that helps you to see the alignment across the organization. And we're hoping it's going to help identify, as I had mentioned before, potential for collaboration where we can work with partners on different actions, as well as with each other within the organization. And really, it does bring together the remaining actions from the corporate plan. So we have gone through and said which ones have been achieved, which ones haven't been. They have been the ones that have been carried forward. And it also really attempts, this document, the plan on a page, to really incorporate council's discussions on the priorities to date. So all of the budget discussions, as well as your two workshop discussions. And so that's partly why we're bringing it to you. Did we get it right? Are there things here that you would like to tweak? So the framework for the plan, so what's in here? So I just wanted to point out, for today's focus, really, we want to focus on the areas of focus. So when you think about focus, we'd also like to talk about the strategic objectives, which again are those high level kind of priorities and what you'd like the organization to achieve. And then we've also, staff have gone through and looked at the priorities that you've identified and identified actions that either came out of council budget discussions, out of the current primary plans, or the corporate plan. So those are the actions that you're going to see in the plan on the page. And then we'd also like to talk about the values, because again, this is something that council came up, which is brand new for the organization. What we didn't put in as a discussion, but again, it's up to council's direction around this, was the vision and mission. Because we have the corporate plan and all the primary plans have the vision and the mission, which I'll share with you in the next slides. We didn't think there would be necessarily a need to change those, but again, that's up to council's discretion. So that's kind of the framework of the plan. The focus areas, as again, we're going to go through all of those, but the focus areas, did I skip a slide? Yep, I did skip. It went really fast. I don't know why. There we go. So just to so the vision for the organization. So again, this is what was established with the corporate plan that was developed in 2020. So this is what we aspire to. This is kind of like the vision for the organization, and it's energy, opportunity, balanced lifestyle. So that's kind of what was in previous plans and all of our primary plans. The mission, which is really why the organization exists, is it was approved in 2020. And it's the municipality of Kincardine provides quality services that address the needs of our citizens, provide long-term sustainability, and improves the well-being of the community. So that's kind of what our mission is for the organization as it stands right now. I don't know where to point this thing. Oh, obviously not there. Jen, can you help me get to the back to the after the mission? Yeah. There we go. Yeah, revised. So then in this plan here, so you're going to see the revised focus areas and objectives. And again, they're based on primary plans, the integrated strategy 1.0, council priority setting workshops, and that's your discussions. And I included the workbook, so you had that from your previous two sessions that had your priorities. I think you remember the exercise when you went through and said, what were the top 3 things you wanted to accomplish in your term of council? What were some of the itches that you had that you'd heard from the community? And those were all sort of built and put into that worksheet, as well as you'll see here, I brought back the pages from your previous workshops, all marked up. So those also form what we've redrafted based on your input.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you very much. Through you, Chair. I see a lot of writing on this, and you've done a good job, but is our mission tonight to bring it down to, for 2023, 3 objectives? I mean, is that what your goal is? I mean, because trying to do all this, we have 8 months. I like to set some strategic goals and objectives. I think 3 would be really quite good. So is that where you're thinking that council needs to go tonight?
Through you, Mayor Craig. So this is an integrated strategy. It's not the top 3 goals. This is all the pieces that we're currently working on as an organization in primary plans and in the previous corporate plan. So this isn't the attempt to narrow it down. When we're going to be reviewing each of the areas, and you can make your suggestions as we go through which ones you might see that we don't need to work on, but all of them have substance in something that we've been working on or that council's deliberated on.
Follow up, Counselor?
Thank you. Through you again, Chair. So I look at this, you know, and I know that we don't call it in public business, but this is more like a business plan. This is what you're planning to do, what we sort of gave you as strategic goals, and this is what you're going to work at. And so you want us to prove this also, each one of these, to make sure that you're working in the right direction?
Perhaps I can give some guidance here. Keeping in mind the role of our municipal council is to set vision, just as Councillor Stewart is envisioning, like 20 years out. So in our perfect world on this chart, we look at the top four things,
And that's what I was
the top four things, and then only slightly do we look at the ones in bold print.
Right.
Like there's 16 or 17 of the 17 of them. Focus your comments on the four big headings or the 17 bold printed ones. The little ones substantiate what council or what staff has been working on based on the broad goals that we have given them, which are highlighted. So we part of the invitation tonight is council has matured significantly since we started, and and our wisdom is increasing, and we know that we can't do everything all the time. But I'm hearing from each one of you that this is really important to me. So when you know, in support of Councillor Stewart's comments, yes, staff is working on all these things, advancing them, but if there is a particular area that council, you know, you hear it and yes, we need to do this, you know, not to the detriment of everything else, but yes, we need to focus on this. That's kind of the intent, broadly speaking, of this evening too, to make sure that we don't have anything different that, oh, we want to start a zebra park. No. So it's just, are these the things we want to keep working on, or is there something different?
So going, so the four areas of focus, and again, these were the ones that you had worked on and changed up from our last workshop, are fostering a resilient economy, planning for a sustainable future, enhancing quality of life, and providing responsive and effective government. So those were the four areas of focus. I think, there we go. What we talked about at the last council workshop was the objectives. Those are the what we hope to accomplish. And that's sort of the area that Mayor Craig was referring to. That's council, that's from based on your last workshop. And they're in bold on this, on the plan to plan page, or the plan on a page document. So they're the ones, again, those high level pieces of what you're hoping to accomplish. Where the next piece is and what staff thought would be helpful for council to see were the actions. How are we going to achieve those objectives? Those are the sort of the how pieces, the concrete things that make the objectives real around what it is that we're trying to work towards. And so really this document that we've given you shows you some of those actions. It's not exhaustive of everything the organization does. It is just those high level ones that we heard that were priorities from council, that are priorities that take resources and staff and financial resources. And it's important to note that they're found in multiple different plans. And they really help us to achieve the vision and the mission of the organization. So again, all of these actions would be something that we think will help achieve the objectives that council has identified. And so just to kind of make it even more real, some of the next steps would be, once this is approved, you know, once whatever version of this is approved by council, we would be rolling this out to staff and to the public. The previous corporate plan wasn't rolled out. And so because of COVID, it just, everything kind of went like it went kind of in the background. Not that things weren't worked on, but we didn't really roll it out to staff or to the public. The other thing we'll be doing is developing a tracking schedule. And I put this on your desktop as an example. After meeting with Councillor Hinchberger, I just thought it might be helpful for people to see that we would take each of the actions, and this would come back to council every 6 months. So you could see, you know, what it is what we're doing and what we're achieving. So for example, on your, on the tracking sheet, oh, this thing, I don't know where to point this. Sorry. What's that?
Don't have to point it, just punch it.
So on the chart, you can see that there's the actions, there's who's responsible for it, the percent complete. So you can see at a glance what percent that complete the action is, the start and the end date, if it's behind schedule, complete, or it's on track. A little bit of a narrative progress update too from each of the actions. And then KPIs, which would be key performance indicators that we would identify once council has given us the endorsement of the plan, as well as the related primary plan. So all of our plans are kind of, most of the actions are connected to a primary plan. So that would also be in there. We also like to track if the action impacts other departments, because we don't work in silos. And so something that Adam's department's doing, for example, might impact the work of strategic initiatives. And so we try and get a bit of a glance at that. And that's part of what we would report back to council at every 6-month cycle. So we just wanted to really make it real for you so that, you know, this isn't just what you're going to see as this document. You're going to see a report on progress, which staff will come back to you with that update. So that I just wanted to highlight that.
Just a minute, Councillor Stewart, do you have your hand up?
No, I didn't
Oh.
have it, because I have an injury. Supposed to keep it above my heart. Sorry. Like people like this, yeah, put it on the top of my head. Thanks.
I'm sorry, manager, go ahead.
I'll look at you.
So that's just that's an overview of sort of where we started to where we are, and just wanted to pause if you had any questions before we start going through each of the particular focus areas and objectives.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thanks through you. I just wanted to make a quick comment that I'm very happy that you included the actions. I'll try not to get too caught up in them, but they did really help to show how we're going to roll some of this stuff out.
Carry on.
So how would you like to proceed, Mayor Craig? We haven't really rehearsed this. Would you like to chair and go
Yeah.
through each slide and I'll just click for you, or how would you like to, or would you like me to go through each of the slides?
Yeah, we'll address Councillor Hinchberger's question first, then I'll answer.
I was just, the question I had was, is there a reason why we maybe wouldn't go mission value or mission vision values first and then into the meat? I can think of a couple reasons. One, might help us develop some momentum and some early successes. And two, when you think about it, all the stuff when we get down into like focus areas and objectives is really just one layer down from which is the very top, which is what's our vision and why are we here? So just throwing it out there.
CAO, please.
And Lori, you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong. My recollection, though, is in the first meeting, the first workshop and the discussion with the consultant was mission and vision wouldn't change. So it was confirmed at that point through the discussion with the consultant that those two council didn't see a pressing need to change those right off the bat. And that's probably not unreasonable, given that a mission and a vision should be something that really lasts for a long time. But the values are new. So if the values are something that we did hear pretty clearly and wanted to spend some time focused on in those conversations, but that's where they came out of, was the two workshops. So if you are looking for a recommendation about whether or not they're to be supported, I think that's reasonable.
If I might inquire, so are you suggesting that as we look at the first category, that we see how they support and move our mission and vision forward? Is that how you would address them, Councillor, or was there a more specific context?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I also didn't think that the mission and the vision needed to change, but some of the language I was hearing tonight sounded like that was still open for like consideration. So I would imagine if there would literally be an affirmation that the mission and vision are to remain as is, and then quite possibly at a high level, we just might be looking for endorsement of the values that have been laid out by municipal staff. And then once those are out of the way, then we could get into the nitty gritty as far as objectives and actions. That's what I was thinking.
Councillor Stewart, and thank you, Jenna, for getting us back to our Lori.
I'm making it work.
Thank you, Lori, for arriving back on our mission and vision statement. We'll have a look at them in a moment too. Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. As my fellow counselor said, I'd like to keep this, and maybe the council doesn't, but I'd like to keep it at a high level. I mean, you know, we basically, as a council, approve two things. I mean, we basically make decisions on finances and what services we deliver. I look at this and I know where you want to go, but we're starting to get into the weeds. So do you want us to go through each one, or do you just want us to comment overall or add some? This is really your function after we give you the strategic objective initiative, and then you start breaking it all down. So I'm a little bit confused because aren't we getting into staff stuff? But do you want an endorsement from us? Is that what you're looking for? Or do you want us to go through each one and say yes or no?
Once again, I'll address that. On our plan on a page, we have 4 big items. That's the broad picture. We will delve into it only as deep as the bold printed ones. And that's, you know, those are, you can read the other ones and say, okay, well, that's how we achieve, that's how staff is aiming to achieve it. But when we look at, just to begin with, we're going to look at our mission and vision, and then I will come back to this just for the process before we get too much deeper in. Just can you go through the mission and vision one more time, just to refresh our memory, and if there are any comments by councillors that, you know, we need to address a word or a direction, that would be helpful.
Through you, Mayor. So our vision, and again, this is what we aspire to as an organization, and it was approved in 2020, is energy, opportunity, balanced lifestyle.
Comments for, against, opposed, otherwise? What's our mission?
So our mission, again, why we exist, and again, it was approved in 2020, is the municipality of Kincardine provides quality services that address the needs of our citizens, provide long-term sustainability, and improves the well-being of the community.
Comments? All right, so we're kind of, yeah, oh, I'm sorry, there were.
Like I would just imagine somebody would motion that we reaffirm the vision and mission that was laid out by the previous term of council. Seconded.
The motion that will affect the whole discussion is that we accept the presentation as presented or as amended. So if there's, you know, if there's no changes to it, the motion at the end will just confirm exactly what you've asked, councillor. So as we begin our discussion, and Ms. Fiozzi, please jump in whenever I'm wandering down the wrong track, but I know that you will. So as we begin our discussion, the fostering resilient economy, you know, it's one of the pillars, 4 pillars upon which our strategic plan for this municipality is built on. And the first one here is working with the nuclear sector. Is there any thought that we should or shouldn't do that? Number 2, improving investment readiness. You know, that's the infrastructure. It is economic development. Is there any discussion that we should or should not do that, Councillor Stewart?
Thank you, through you, Chair. Out of the first one, fostering resistant economy, I guess there's 4 of them. Number 2 would be a very high one for me. That would be a high priority that I like to bring forward after we finish the discussion, would be a goal that I like to be able to put in 2023, effective immediately. So I just wanted to say it's got a high priority with myself, that number 2.
Just from our CIO's perspective, just commenting on Councillor Stewart's thought process here. If there is a, just for instance, we should improve investment readiness. just for instance, it supports Councillor Hinchberger's suggestion that we bring forward the vacant lots and the information about the next steps. So those reports that you bring would come in response to someone's interest about infrastructure readiness. Is that the intent here too?
Absolutely. Yep. So it's important for us to hear from council what it is that are the key priorities, especially for the next year. It's going to go by quickly, folks.
And having said that, if they can't support their request for a report from one of these, then please don't bring it, because it's not something that council as a whole is so interested in listening to. Area number 3, support business expansion and I'm sorry, Councillor Prenger. I'm sorry.
Thank you through the chair. Sorry, I don't jump on things. You're quicker than I am. So I'm actually gonna go back to 1 even. Moving forward from Councillor Stewart's comment, I too agree that number 2 under fostering resilient economy, improving investment readiness is very important. But I think doing that would also facilitate number 1. And nobody chose to comment on number 1, but I kind of wanted to, because I actually think it's important to look at number 1 a certain way. We have nuclear energy here. We have supporting vendors and whatnot that are moving to the area. And I know that not all of them have come to the Kincardine area. They're going to surrounding areas. We do have opportunities to bring more here. I think the way we do that is very important though, because it can greatly impact one of our other pillars, enhancing quality of life, including if we take up downtown space with, say, energy sector businesses. So I just wanted to comment that I think it's very important actually that we do that. I think there's opportunities there for us, our community, to benefit from doing number 1, but I'd like to make sure we do it in a way that maintains the quality of life that we enjoy here in a small town. Thank you.
Councillor Stewart.
Just wanted to, maybe give some insight. It's not that we're going to exclude these. And these are all important maybe to every one of them. We just need to prioritize them because we can't do all 17. So as the mayor was saying, so maybe that one will be 2024, we emphasize that one. But I think it'd be important for us tonight to really sort of pick 3 or 4 and really sort of say to the staff, we'd like you to get up and go starting May 1st. And I think it would help us, and not saying the rest of them aren't important, but we only could do so much and staff can only do so much. So that's the only comment I have. It's not like we're going to ignore it. We just might not prioritize it for the next 8 months.
Councillor Kennedy, please.
Yeah, through the chair. I know you just mentioned the name I was going to use, prioritize, and to me, all 17 are important, and we prioritize what's at the top of the list of each one of them to me, and chip away at little things, over the next 4 years would be more of my vision, how I see it, than just taking 2 or 3 and leaving the rest on a pile. I just think it's important for everything that they've got here. So just my feelings. Thanks.
Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you through you, Chair. So I fully agree with the comments that were just made. I thought it was my understanding that we were going through each one to provide us the opportunity to discuss each, even though we're not going to prioritize all 17 for the year. So those were just the comments I wanted to make about number 1. I'm not saying that that's my top priority, but I do think obviously I support it, but I wanted to provide my comments on that one.
So number 3 on that list is supporting business expansion and retention to support diversified economy. Number 4 is leveraging opportunities to attract visitors. So we're expanding on an alternative industry, significant industry within our municipality. Like nuclear is obviously important, small business is important, tourism is important. That's what brings visitors. Are there, if there was another category to add on to resilient economy, does anyone have a phrase or thought? Are we missing anything in there that we should be addressing? Councillor Blackwell?
Thank you. Through you, there quite a lot of the points kind of go under number 5 with planning for a sustainable future, but I don't know whether anyone else feels that we need to be a bit more intentional about, one of our big points has been affordable housing. And that I don't know whether evaluate and practically plan for the infrastructure to meet population growth actually captures my feelings around affordable housing. So I don't know whether a resilient economy, to have the workers in various roles, to have a full, a full community, whether that needs to be its own point or not. I'm open to hearing anybody else's thoughts on that.
Ms. Fiocchi, is there a more particular category that you would include housing in? It is part of economy, yes, but is it more enhancing quality of life or sustainable future?
So through you, Mayor, we have some actions under the Planning for Sustainable Future around housing. So there's 3 actions in there. We have a whole housing action plan, but for priorities, this is what staff have recommended to work on first. But it can go in either category. To me, the focus doesn't matter where it lands as long as it's in there. I think that's what council needs to, if that's a priority for you, it needs to land somewhere in there regardless, because it could also be enhancing quality of life as well.
Thank you for that, Councillor Blackwell. Councillor Steinhoff Gray, and then Councillor Hinchberger, please.
If I had a vote, I would keep it under planning for sustainable future. Because if we don't have affordable housing sector, then we won't have people to have a full community because they won't be able to afford to live here. So I think it all ties back together. So for me, I think the staff have placed it in the exact right bucket. And what we need to focus on here for me, I know I was invited to look at a location that's being considered for affordable housing. There's a lot of people coming up with strategies. And as those strategies come forward, it puts an emphasis on what we can do as a council to support people who are willing to help us move that platform forward. So for me, I would see that right where it is. End of comment.
Councillor?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I also can see enough actions under section 5 in the Planning for Sustainable Future that if I read them the way I want to read them, address affordable housing.
So as we move into that second pillar, planning for sustainable future, there are 3 main categories in there. 5 is infrastructure, 6 is environment, and 7 is best usage of municipal facilities and lands. That is the sustainable aspect of all that. Are there any comments that council would like to make regarding the sustainability of our community, what it looks like to you or your family? Councillor Blackwell, and then Stuart, please.
Thank you. Through you, please stop me if I'm getting too much in the weeds here, but one of the actions that I kind of expected to see in the protect and preserve environment was around a potential urban tree canopy program or some sort of reference to the natural environment beyond just our own assets.
Councillor Stuart, please.
I think we also have to be careful that we're not going to exclude some of these things from, we'll just emphasize what we decide, but it doesn't limit us from doing other things. So, let's make sure that we just don't put blinders on. I mean, the one thing I'd say about the planning sustainable future, number 7 is important to us, but I'm not going to prioritize it this year because I think there's other priorities, but it's one of those, see, I got the mayor going like this already. And I agree with you. It's something that we need to do. We know we need to do, and let's take a serious look at that in 24 if we have the time and prioritize it. But I think you're absolutely right. And I think everyone agrees. Number 5 in this category is our favorite to prioritize. Thank you.
Councillor Steinhoff Gray, please.
Just one comment on that, because I believe we were in section 6 before we jumped around for protect and preserve our environment. And I'm actually in alignment with Beth. It's something we've been struggling with for a while, is our lack of a tree bylaw. And it's something that really, it's been on the books for a long time, and I'd like to see us get across the finish line. So it's one shining item that I would love to see us finish this year.
So we've been dealing with that second pillar, planning for sustainable future. Any other comments? There's no other changes or amendments to those high-level bullets? Third pillar is enhancing quality of life. Includes parks, green space, recreation facilities, programs. Number 9 is enhancing the experience at the lakefront. 10 is arts and culture. 11 is diversity, equity, access, inclusion. Supporting community wellness, and 13 is protecting people. So that's a quality of life is a very broad and inclusive sort of category. If you have any comments about any or all of those items, you're offering to make them. Councillor Kennedy.
Excuse me, through the chair. I just, something I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't bring up before, but to expand on the parks plan. With a vision of 10 or 15 years down the road, when they have to build a new arena or two, or a family-friendly pool and soccer fields and baseball fields all in the same spot, whether it's beside a high school, whether it's in Tiverton, whether it's at the airport, what options we have. And I really believe if we're going to make people successful 10 or 15 years from now, we have to start putting money aside yesterday. And I've got some ideas. I know Mayor Craig mentioned one to me that Saugeen did. I really believe there's ways that we can start in small amounts to start putting money aside for 10 to 15 years from now for the municipality to be able to build what they need for a growing community. So I'm asking council support in adding something like that, and maybe bringing a notice of motion forward at a meeting in May and get everybody's thoughts on that. I have 2 spots I want to comment on. Can I just get response to that first, and then, or how would you want me to do it?
Just hold that thought. We'll let another councillor speak. I'll come back to you.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Councillor Steinhoff, Gray, and then Blackwell, please.
Through you, Chair, one of the things I was surprised about is we made reference in this plan directly to the All Wheels Park, which I think is really important. But we had that exciting milestone a few weeks ago where we'd reached our funding goal for the Tiverton Splash Pad. And I was a little surprised that it wasn't there, because it's within reach and it's something a lot of parents in the area are excited about and talking about, with all the baseball tournaments that happen, a place for their kids to safely go play in the water while their dads or moms are playing ball. I just think it's a huge piece of that community, and it could be greatly leveraged by the local daycare that's right beside there. So I was surprised that it wasn't there. So I'd really like to see us leveraging our partners to get as much as we can, and really building off of our existing infrastructure so that we're improving the quality of life by leveraging what we have or could be having.
You want to comment? You all right?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Okay, all right. I agree, 100% agree. We need to stay up a little higher than that, though, to think, yeah, a splash park is a great thing. And when it comes time to implement that, then we go back to staff and say, okay, how are we doing that? How are we going to how are we going to keep that for like 50 years? So the idea, the provision is where we're at, not necessarily the how. Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you. I'll see if I can do this at the high level. So number 8 itself is create vibrant parks, green space, rec facilities, and programs. And then 8.6 is a parks master plan. And I spoke a little bit with the director of community services around this, where in all of my research, I haven't found anywhere that's just done a parks master plan. Everyone has done a parks, rec, and culture, or at least parks and rec. And so I don't know if we're trying to get that vibrant parks, green space, rec facilities, and programs, whether we should consider actually investing in a proper broader plan, because I don't know how you can plan for parks if you're not also planning for the programming that may happen in them. and understanding, as Councillor Kennedy mentioned, where we want to be in 15 years. We can make what we have now really great, but if we don't know if it's going to actually align down the line. So that's really just my only comment. Hopefully it's high level enough.
Councillor Kennedy?
Yes, through the chair. 12.3. Just with a growing community, with a medical center that probably doesn't have enough room for more than 13 or 14 doctors, with a hospital that might have to expand for an MRI. This is 8, 10, 15 years down the road. Should we add that to hopefully maybe team up with them to try to save everybody a little bit of money? In the future, just maybe connect those two buildings, which I kind of thought should have happened to start with, but I know that's not something for right away, but for our staff and mayor and CEO to work with the hospital board to see feasibility of those sort of things in the future. That's
Once again, a great idea to recommend that to staff to bring back a report. Councillor Kavanaugh, please.
Thank you very much. And through the chair, it's just a quick comment on reading this over. I appreciate all the work that staff has done into it. I really feel that if this can be executed to the spirit of it and the intent, that we are in a really good place. My personal comment being that I find 5 and 12 to be sort of hand in hand, where you have both providing places where people can live as well as taking care of them physically. And I find that those two, along with the environmental of 6, would probably make my main things that I would really like to see emphasized and accomplished. Thank you.
Sort of a holistic approach to life, wellness and life. Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, just to help you out, the Saugeen Shores, actually, they called it a legacy fund, and it's a great fund, and they decided, and they went out to vote it a 1%. And it's not a bad idea. We'll throw it at, the budget time and everything, but a lot of that legacy can go towards some of these special things. So it's something to really consider in our budget, and whether something to talk about with the community, whether they want to set aside 1% in the legacy fund. So I think it's a great idea, but we'll have to get community support. Thank you.
Anything else from that third pillar? The fourth pillar is providing responsive and effective government. So we're talking about staffing levels, communication, service provision, and organizational efficiency and innovation. Any comments? Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you, I'm wondering about potentially changing number 14, where it says ensure the organization has optimal number of engaged staff, to something like ensure the organization has optimal human and financial resources. One of the things that has come up quite a bit is around potential volunteers, not to replace our existing staff, but to expand and to allow the community to be a part of what we're doing. And so that's just something that I would like to see.
Councillor Hinchberger.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Along with number 2 and 5, I consider number 15 to be kind of like foundational. I think one of the things in 5 months that we've really recognized is community engagement isn't as high as we would really like it to be. And driving that higher can only help us have a better sense of the pulse of the community in terms of what the majority of people are actually looking for. Thanks.
Having a strat plan ultimately is doing what the public wants us to do in a financially responsible and legislative sort of way.
Follow up, I'd say right now where we're at is probably our strat plan might be a little out there in front of the community in terms of how much buy-in and level of interest that there is. Where I think in many of us using our best efforts are really trying to extrapolate our small data sets across the entire municipality. And right now I'm not comfortable with what I would call the margin of error in doing that. So anything that we could do that get the community more involved in almost every way, shape and form in terms of providing opinion in a constructive way and helping in decision making, I think has a lot of benefit.
Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Stewart.
I echo the comment just made by Councillor Hinchberger in terms of the importance of community engagement. However, I suppose you can only do so much to encourage the community to engage. My additional comment is in relation to number 17, really looking at possibly municipal accommodation tax. It was something that was raised with the last council and a report was brought. However, although it was deemed sufficient to consider, I don't think it's ever been brought back. And I think it's important, particularly when we have a lot of short-term rentals in the community, to look at perhaps some sort of regulation around short-term rentals for a number of reasons, with the perhaps byproducts and added benefit of additional revenue for the purposes of the municipality.
And the outcome of longer term housing for people. Yeah. Councillor Stewart and Blackwell and Hinchberger.
Thank you very much. I guess in this one, I could probably pick all four, but that's where my background and my passion is. But definitely, I think 14, you know, we spent a lot of money, almost $2.5 million in increasing our staff for a reorg, and we really haven't done due diligence around reviewing that yet with the new council. So I think that's a high priority. So 14 would be a big one, especially 14.3. We really need to do a review. Also, I'm a big component of this, and number 16, value for money and long-term stability. We're finding out, and just to give you an example, Queen Street's a prime example. We had to get it done. We knew we had to get it done, and now we have to borrow money. So long-term financial, stability is going to be important to us to look at, just not our term, but 5 or 10 years. So I'm sort of a 14, 16 sort of type of person, but Mike, I would enjoy 15. I would enjoy 17. I take all four of these, but I think that would be a little biased. So I'll quit at 14 and 16. Thank you.
Councillors Blackwell, Hinchberger and Prenger.
Thank you. Through you, one of the potential bold focus areas that we're calling, I didn't see necessarily here around partnerships, shared services, or kind of an improved reputation around working with others. I don't know whether that's something that we can fit in under something else, but I think, I recognize that we talk about organizational efficiency, but I think that is something that our CA has already brought to us around things like potential partnerships with the county and things. And I do really think that that's a necessary step moving forward. So I just didn't feel like maybe it was captured.
Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Thank you, through your Mayor. Just to follow up on some comments that Deputy Mayor Clark made. I hear what you're saying about limits to community engagement. I just don't feel right now that we're near those limits. The other part was you mentioned the municipal accommodation tax, and I can be completely on board with that. I actually look at, just for a moment, if I went into slightly into the weeds, 5.3 about our affordable housing reserve policy and how we might make annual contributions to that. I think what you're proposing would be a key candidate for looking at essentially having one form of housing helping to pay for another. Thanks.
Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Well, I think all four pillars are very important. I too am a very pillar 4 type person. And I think I'm struggling a little bit with the way it's organized, because I expected this, I don't know. I had slightly different ideas, and I feel like some of them, our bolded initiatives are not exactly, how do I say it? The way it's worded isn't exactly, and then what's below it, what the implementation steps aren't yeah, they're not aligned exactly. Yeah, thank you. How I'd expect them to be, and I'm not seeing some of the ones I would have expected. So for example, 16 and 17, to me, ensure municipality provides value for money. Value for money to me is organizational effectiveness and efficiencies, which 17 is sort of what 17 is about. But I don't see anywhere there about doing a full lean evaluation of the organization and seeing where we can improve processes and efficiency, find efficiencies. And to me, that's really important because I think to be nice about it, I don't know, from what I can remember, from what I was looking at with the finances, like we kind of hemorrhage money in the operational side of things, where I feel like we could be more effective and be more efficient and save money that way, which to me is value for money for our tax dollars. Anyway, so I think 14 is really important. Like Councillor Stewart said, we need to do evaluations like 14.3, but I think there could be a little more internal audit type evaluation that we could do to try and become more efficient and effective. Thank you.
CAO, please.
Thanks. So I would suggest probably the strategic plan would come, and then if you're going to look at a service delivery review, then you would also look at it at that point. One would follow the other. We noted during the budget process, if council was interested in a particular focus service delivery review, that wasn't part of the 2023 budget, but if that was something council wanted to do, we could add it. It wasn't added at that time, which is part of the reason why you don't really see it in here. Because again, we were picking up the comments from both the workshops, but also the budget process. So I do think that would be a good exercise to go through for the organization. The comment about the reporting back on the staff, that's something that's in my business plan for 2023 in terms of the organizational review. I think those things line up together, right? Looking at strat plan, the organizational review, and then either a focused service delivery review in a particular area, or if you're looking at a bigger picture one, you would also hope that if it's possible, there's another round of modernization funding from the province related to efficiency and effectiveness, and then you can pay for that through that type of funding. I think they've had 3 streams of that kind of opportunity to do that kind of a study. So we'll have to see if they come out with another one, but that would be sort of you lining things up. That's how I would see that sort of laying out.
Councillor Stanoff, Gray, Kennedy, and Blackwell, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just kind of playing off what Councillor Pranger said and what our CAO has commented. I'm not in disagreement. I think that what we should always be striving for is a continuous improvement model. So we look at our procedures, where are we getting hurt, where's the waste, and let's try to address it through our lean principles. And when I say lean, I don't necessarily mean cutting services, just making sure that we're working smarter or as smart as we can. And that I don't know where it would fit in here, but one of the things I was curious about is our corrective action program, because even us as counselors might have realizations that we could have done something a little better and we could submit a corrective action. So I would love to be part of that. I understand from talking to Trevor that it exists, but having all of us participating in the program and knowing where it is and looking at it, I think would add to the overall effectiveness.
I don't think they have enough paper for me to keep filling that list out all the time, so it'd have to be electronic, I suppose. So. No, good comments, good councillor, good comments. Councillor Kennedy and Blackwell, please.
Yeah, through the chair, just to expand on Deputy Mayor Clark and Councillor Hinsberger's comments about I am certainly in agreement with an hotel tax, some type to go back into housing, and also an idea that the Mayor Craig said to me, which I'm not going to take any credit for, but Saugeen Shores advertised it didn't cost the municipality any money to build their new complex, which we all know it did, but in different ways that they raised it through development fees, which theirs are a little higher than ours. And they took that. Mayor Craig can tell the whole story and I'll get a little part of it, but could we take development fees and raise them to Saugeen Shores level and split the difference between housing and recreation of the future? So just a question and thought for everybody. Mayor Craig, can you?
No, that would be a great report for the staff to bring about development charges and where they're applicable and how they could be effectively used for any municipality. There's pros and cons, both sides in that discussion. Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you, one of the things that I appreciate that we're still going through it right now, so I wasn't sure if that's why it wasn't included, but was implementation of our governance review. I think that has been as we talk about kind of laying a foundation and trying to really retool and refocus what we're doing. I felt like that was a positive experience so far, and I'd like to see that implemented, and I'm just not sure if that needs to be captured or not.
Okay, so we have had opportunity to look at the plan on a page, the draft summary of our integrated strategy as presented by Manager Fiozzi. And staff is looking for a motion
Sorry, through you, Mayor Craig, just the values. Those were the other pieces that needed to be looked at in order to approve the plan on the page.
Okay, would you like to lead us through that conversation, please?
Sure. So the values, we're in more detail in your report, and they're foundational along the bottom of the plan on a page. And really these values should guide everyday interactions. It's what council expects of staff. It's what the citizens should expect of staff and behaviors. It should be what we expect with treating each other. And so these came directly out of your conversations, the two conversations that you had around, you called them behaviors, you called them ethical statements. You had a whole bunch of different ways to describe it. We framed it as values. We think this would be a really good way for us to help us roll this out with staff around expectations. And so these are the values that we heard from you and that we're proposing. So we are a municipality that cares by demonstrating. So CARES is the acronym for each of the different values. So collaboration. So that's involve and engage. We involve and engage the community to encourage high levels of participation and form partnerships to make a big and meaningful impact. Accountability, which inspires trust. We are responsible for decisions made and actions taken, and will conduct ourselves with openness and transparency to build trust and confidence. Respect, which is recognize and value. We create an environment where we celebrate our diversity, we practice high standards of ethical behavior, and provide a safe space for sharing points of view. E is excellence, and that's really the serve and satisfy. So we deliver excellent services in our every interaction to increase satisfaction and build trust and confidence in the municipality of Kincardine. And S being safety, which is prevent and protect. We create an environment where safety is never compromised, and we work together to prevent accidents and keep each other safe. And so these are based on your two discussions, and that we thought this would be a way for us to talk to staff, communicate this, and help create some expectations around behaviors based on your conversations.
Questions, Councillor Stewart, please.
We're going to get into a corporate governance review. I'm trying to understand our values, and with corporate governance, you have principles. And some of these values are principles. So are we going to incorporate these as principles in our corporate governance? Because, you have accountability, you usually have transparency, which I don't really see there. One of the other principles is responsibility, which I sort of see, fairness and everything. So I'm a little bit confused because corporate governance has principles. And that's how we govern ourselves. So are we going to include values and principles, or are we just going to have one or the other? Thank you.
And maybe Councillor Stewart, I could just clarify, are you talking about the governance review? Is that what you're speaking about?
Yeah, the government's review will always include principles. It includes a bunch of other things too, but it basically gives us an overview of what we do and how we conduct ourselves. And, I guess one of the things is that, are we going to incorporate these values as part of our new governance? Or are we going to go with the principles, which are two different things, actually? And I just don't understand. We're going to get a little bit confused very quickly. Thank you.
And I would say there's, potential for even expanding that, because you would include certain key values as well in your code of conduct, right? So for council, for staff, these are what I would say, the high level, again, as a strat plan, the high level values that you're saying are the key priorities of how you want to behave in this organization, and as this corporation. These are the pillars of that behavior. So, and transparency, yeah, absolutely. That can be a component of, and I guess I would say some of these you could fit many different words. So if you wanted to adjust and include accountability, you can't have accountability really without transparency, right? Transparency is an important component of being able to be held accountable for the decisions that you are seen to be making. So, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
You're going in the right, just to follow up, please, through you. You're going in the right direction, because when you bring values and you bring principles, and this gets a little bit, but when you bring a new policy, all of a sudden you have to go through everything. So we have to be careful and sort of, we'll have to massage them as we get into the corporate governance. So the values now are, you're asking us to adopt these. What I would say is defer them until we go through the corporate governance and then try to combine both of them. But that's just my call. Thank you.
It would, just because we've had a conversation with the consultants leading the governance review. And I think what they would, well, I know what they will say is it's the first priority is do your strategic plan. So get that in place so that your governance aspects follow what it is that you see as your top priorities, what you want to achieve, when you want to achieve it. Get that done, because your governance should flow out of that. So they would form and function, right? So your big picture goals, and then you are going to have the function of government, but the form of it through the governance. These should all match and mesh together.
Just to follow up, and you're absolutely correct, but in strategic planning, you don't always have values. That's what I'm saying. So I just want to be careful, because, I know where you're going, but you understand that we could get stuck if we put values in strategic, then values have to become corporate governance too. So, just want to be careful about that. Thank you.
So that is a, suggestion, comment by Councillor Stewart as to whether or not we, as we address the motion to approve this, whether we defer the values that are identified here, or whether they are part of the expectations of this council as far as staff and council members go as we deal with our community. So it's not that we're, if we defer them, doesn't mean we're getting rid of them. It means we're understanding better how they fit in and integrate with our code of conduct, our governance strategy, and other governance documents in that regard. Another comment.
If that's all right, thank you, through you, Mayor. So I would say, I would just ask the question. So deferring them for more information, deferring them till when? Because as Lori mentioned, we are looking to roll this out with staff to help communicate, okay, this is the vision, this is where we're going, and this is how we want to make sure that you are all aware that this is the expectation for how we behave in undertaking those actions in order to achieve the goals. So we can, it's absolutely council's discretion to defer, but are you deferring it until you go through the bigger exercise? That way we are of a bigger strategic plan that replaces this in 2025? Or are you hoping for more information, or were you looking for another exercise? Do you want us to roll this out with staff and get feedback and come back to you on it? That'd be my question.
So I suppose the question that keeps coming in my mind is, you know, the principles of how we conduct ourselves as we govern. I'm not sure exactly how they are different than the values. You know, this is the method in which we govern. These are not the governance rules by themselves. This is just the attitudes and the respect that we have for each other and our community and our staff members. So I'm, if I may, Councillor Stewart, I'm thinking, are there values and principles not a both and rather than an either or? That's kind of my question.
I fully agree with you. I fully agree with you, but you know, the principles that I would add for values, you know, there's transparency, which this isn't really described here, but I think transparency is a value of ours, and fairness with dealing. You know, those are two principles that I would probably, but I don't, you know, I'm fine with anything. I just want to point out that, you know, whatever we adopt, any new policy, we have to go through all these things and understand them and make sure we check the boxes or it gets thrown away. So I just want to make sure that, yeah, we can have principles and we can have values, but it'll get very cumbersome when we start working on policies. I'm just saying it can get a little bit, but you know, if this is what people want and we agree to it, I'm fine with that. I just wanted to point out that it could come cumbersome. Thank you.
The millstone is getting heavier around our neck all the time. Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you, through the chair. Are we allowed to suggest changes to the wording at this point?
Sure.
You are.
Can I please do that for collaboration? Just because of what Councillor Stewart just said, that if we make new policies, we basically have to check off each one to make sure we are abiding by these. And you have to be careful of language then, because you don't want to throw something out on a technicality. So for collaboration, we involve and engage the community to encourage high levels of participation and form partnerships to make big and meaningful impact. I prefer to say just meaningful impact. A small impact can still be meaningful. I don't think everything we have to do has to be a huge, big impact. It can be big, medium, or small, as long as it's meaningful.
Good point. How do you measure?
So the recommendation I'm hearing over here is just to change that and form partnerships to make a positive impact. Once again, as with every policy, as we go through this and we say, man, that didn't turn out the way we thought, we'd have to get out one of Councillor Steinhoff-Gray's corrective papers and make a little note to myself to fix it up and not do that again. But, you know, they are our policies and we have opportunity to amend and move forward with them to serve our community better. Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Through you, Mayor, thank you. With respect to all the opinions expressed by my colleagues, I can in my mind make a distinction largely based on my background between values and getting down into principles and policies. To me, like values are more like common language, things that define the type of culture that you're trying to make in your entire organization. And they're meant to be more plain language and not like specific, this is what we do when we do this sort of thing. So personally, I like the way they're written. I try to always tell myself that even though certain things may not be worded in a way that fits my mind, I'm not the only mind that matters on this. So that I think it's, and I think if I'm correct, the municipality has not had values historically. And so I think just on those grounds alone, this would represent a large step forward.
A positive impact?
Even a big impact, you don't know.
All right, so we've had opportunity to go through the pillars. We've had conversation. Our manager has been making notes down there, right, left and center. And the motion that is being brought forward to the priority setting is that council approve the integrated strategy 2.0 with the following amendments, which I think that our manager has acknowledged, including the change to some of the wording. And is the intent at this point to see do we get to see a copy of this before we pass this? Do we give it first and second reading or something like that? So that we agree in principle, but just how does this work? Because do we allow our manager to go ahead and produce the final copy, or do you want to see the final copy before you pass this motion in full, or what council's wishes? I think Councillor Hinchberger had a question other than that you would like to address.
Yes, thank you through your mayor. It wasn't brought up explicitly through that, but I noticed that and I'm glad to see this 15.5 had quarterly reports, and my preference would see quarterly updates of council on the progress of the integrated strategy 2.0 until we get our feet under us, and then maybe at that point slide back into a biannual. And that was the question I had. Steps forward. The next step forward, like I would imagine, is that is key performance indicators that are related to all these well thought out actions, so that we can actually assess as we move forward how they've been completed and are they being successful, which is really what matters. Outcome is what we're really shooting for.
Sorry, was that a question?
Well, that was a statement.
A statement, okay. Councillor Stewart, please.
Through you, Mayor, I'm just trying to understand, are you talking about, my fellow councillor, key performance issues on all of these? Or are we supposed to sort of prioritize them tonight and then get the staff to key result areas or key performance improvement areas? I'm not sure. It's a huge undertaking to do everything like this. I thought we were supposed to consolidate a little more, at least give them direction for the first 8 months, because that's a huge undertaking for any group to really do the result areas for all this. So maybe you can help me with the process, please.
There are some areas that are very nebulous, hard to identify what those indexes might be. Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I could go either way on this. I was just looking at, page 4 or 5 of the staff report that accompanied all this, which basically said next step was to develop measures, and it didn't make a distinction on which. And I imagine it's on all of them, and which is a separate matter from also maybe within these 16 objectives that council provides some direction on what it considered to be the top 3 or so.
If I might offer, this would be sort of the recommendation to staff, is that there will be some where we can start to identify those performance indexes easily and quickly. And let's make those successes. And as we move ahead, just as Councillor Stewart has commented, or others, that as, that's what we need to measure, because some of them, there is no hard and fast measure. How do you measure this or that? But would like to offer the opportunity for staff to say, well, this is where we can start that sort of process. And it would be unwise, in my estimation, to ask them to do all of them all the time right now, because that's we don't have the form or the style to do that at this point. Councillor Kennedy, please.
Yeah, through the chair. Just, sitting around this chair, my 5th year, like I'll tell you, something like this did not happen in the first 4 years I was in council. And this is really impressive, what we're doing right here and all these meetings we've had about this. And it just lays us for a great term of council. And I just have to comment on that it's really impressive the way we've set up these meetings, the information we're getting from staff, and different things like that. And it's all good. That's my comment.
Councillor Stanoff Gray and then Stuart, please.
Just a quick comment, kind of playing off of what Councillor Hinchberger was saying, and acknowledging the comments by Councillor Kennedy, because I agree. I think that metrics, like performance metrics, don't have to be a negative thing. I think a lot of people think of them as an adverse item, but it also gives you the framework to your story of what you've accomplished. So sometimes you set yourself goals like we want 5 new businesses on the downtown core and we don't meet it. It doesn't mean that we failed necessarily. We just maybe set the bar too high and we discuss it as a group. What is a reasonable goal? So metrics don't have to be set in stone either. So I would hate for us to get ourselves really bogged down on perfect metrics right off the go. Metrics are meant to evolve and measure what you're trying to do. And so it could be an iterative process where we won't have it right off the hop. So I don't want people to back off of it from a negative connotation, because metrics can be really important. They help tell a story, and it helps us tell our story to the people who have put their trust in us to make these things happen.
Your comments are well taken. That is one of the innovations that our municipality will be starting. And believe me, innovations don't start perfectly. They start as a process. So, Councillor Stewart.
Thank you. Through you, I still think that we need to take 17 and whittle it down, so it gives the staff an opportunity to start putting their measurements around it and really concentrate it. And once again, we're not excluding all the other ones. We're just sort of emphasizing. And I think for the first go around, not to bury staff, if we could come with 3 to 5 or 3, whatever, and it's going to be a hard vote, but I think that we would have success. And, you know, and a good plan is 90% there, and then a 10% we might have to juggle. But I think to ask anyone to do all 17 is an impossible task. So can we maybe make a direction and maybe ask the mayor that we actually start to really concentrate on 3 to 5? And I prefer 3, but you know, it's up to the council. Thank you.
So just want to focus that question on our manager and our CAO here and senior staff as well, because it was well indicated at the start that these are already the projects that are going. These are already started. Yeah. And some will, you know, with every budget we say, okay, well, we need some more money because the project didn't finish last year or it's moving forward or something like that. And I'm not putting down your suggestion, Councillor Stewart. That's not what I'm saying, but is it beneficial for staff, for council to identify the 3, 4, 5 highest priorities on this list? Is that beneficial? Can you help me out on that, CAO, please?
So Mayor, I would agree with your summary. This is what came out of the workshop. This is what's already in plans. It's taking your feedback and what's existing and identifying this is where we see us moving forward for the next little while. So yes, there are things that probably will happen anyway. So if council were to say these are, you know, if 5, 7, 9, and 15 are the most important ones for us, there are still things that are going to be happening under number 1. And we can still report on that. If you want to give us an indication, I'm just not sure how you're going to come to that, of the ones that you see as maybe it's that you go the opposite way. Maybe it's easier to say these are less of a priority.
Well, if I may, please, we heard the common themes around the table. If I can comment on them, and if you think I'm wrong, get another one of Mr. Councillor Stanoff Gray's whoopsie lists, corrective action list. Oh man, that's going to kill me. I heard a lot of interest in number 5, planning sustainable future number 5, whatever that entails. I heard a lot of interest in number 14 and number 16. and 17. You know, that pillar is substantially important with the, yeah, I'll come back to you. Substantially important. And I heard number, you know, so 5, the whole list of 14, 8 and 2, you know, whatever that looks like. If there is significant disagreement from that or a significant ask that you would like to put on that, please do so. Start with Councillor Steinhoff Gray, please.
Hopefully I'm helping things. The only thing I was going to say is kind of lending into what our CAO said in her previous comments. I'm wondering if, because work has already started on all these items, what we're really looking for is a priority matrix so that when items conflict with one another, we know which one to prioritize and which one to drop. So I don't know that we necessarily want to prioritize all these items so much as give a weighting to the different groups so that as conflicts arise, staff have the direction they need to know which ones to drop and move forward with without having to wait for council approval. We could give them a priority rating or a matrix, and that would assist.
Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Sorry, thank you through your mayor, but I mean, if it could be done quickly, there's 17 objectives. A quick poll 1 through 17 and the top 3 that get the most votes, they're the top 3 that staff uses in the case that there's a conflict and they can't achieve everything. They know what to fall back on.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. Mayor, I think that's reasonable. Plus, it gives the staff a priority if we want KRAs or KRIs or measurement. That really focuses you and allows you to come back fairly quickly. So I think it's a great suggestion. So I support it, but it'll be interesting to see how it works.
We're innovative.
All right, so it sounds like once around the table. Give me a number when I get to your name.
3 numbers.
3 numbers?
I just go number 1, go Hank,
Oh,
and the clerk takes down, or somebody takes down the number of votes.
quick poll. You ready for this?
I'll do that.
It's not really a straw vote, right? It's not a straw vote.
This, excuse me, okay. So this, you get 3 votes. You don't get more than 3 votes.
More than 51.
So we'll go through the numbers, council, we'll go through the numbers, you get 3 votes. When you, and you don't get a first, second, and third preference, you get 3 votes. They're all equally weighted for each. And our clerk will jot them down very quickly. You've got like 30 seconds to look at which ones you want. No. We're not doing a recess. We're just gonna finish this.
Come on, let's go.
Couldn't we make it happen if we wanted to?
Okay.
No.
Anyways, let's.
Number 1. Number 2. That's 4. Number 3.
Hold on.
No,
He voted for number 2 as well.
number 2 is, okay.
Yeah.
Number 3. Number 4.
We get 3 votes.
Number 5.
Keep your hands up till we finish.
Oh, yeah, you'll tell me when to put. Thank you.
Okay.
Number 6. Number 7. Number 8. Number 9. Number 10. 11. 12. 13. 14. 15. 16. 17. Excellent. So the motion is,
Oh, you have to count?
yeah, they're all done here.
Perfect.
The council approved the integrated strategy 2.0 with the following amendments, which they have already been identified as priorities. values. Would you like to see the final draft before we give it final reading? Or can we expect it to come back to council all fully ready to go? Councillor Stewart, please.
I believe that I'm going to support to do it. Like you said already, if we have to make amendments or changes, we are the deciding party, but I think I'd like to move this along as fast as possible. It's almost the end of April, so I'm going to trust that Lori and her staff and Jill and her staff and all the staff will get it. So I'm going to support it 100% tonight.
Moved by whom? Councillor Hinchberger, seconded by Councillor Kavanaugh. Council approved the integrated 2.0 with the with amendments. All in favor? And that is carried. Councillor Steinhoff Gray, please.
Is it possible to hear what our top three were? I was just curious.
Number 5, number 2, and number 14.
All right. No, I did it too on so I'm happy.
All right, as council is aware, there has been an emerging issue within our municipality the last few days with which council has been seeking advice, dealing with the stakeholders. And to that end, the mayor is calling a special meeting for Wednesday evening, 5 o'clock here at the municipal office. Wednesday, 5 o'clock here at the municipal office. This is as I said, an emerging issue. If there are any persons from the community that call you regarding an issue that surprises you, or you feel you're not in a place to answer, please refer them to the CAO's office. We appreciate your wisdom and your concern, but the CAO is in the best position to answer the questions regarding these issues. And if you are slightly in the dark, talk to the CAO before you go home tonight, and she will fill you in. There were sort of inequitable distribution of public comments came in, so we'll deal with it in an appropriate fashion. 5 o'clock Wednesday evening, the clerk will distribute that notice to the public in a timely fashion, and we will look after that. Okay, clerk, confirmatory bylaw, please.
Moved by Andrea Clark, seconded by Rory Kavanaugh, and it's that the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of Municipality of Kincardine of April 24th, 2023 be deemed to be read a first, second, and third time, finally passed and numbered as bylaw 2023-065.
All in favor?
Yes.
That's carried. Adjournment motion, clerk, please.
Moved by Amanda Steinhoff Gray, seconded by Doug Kennedy. This council adjourn at 6:45 PM.
All in favor? And that's carried.